Part 39. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 381. People who think this way can't help but say, do you want to curse the Queen Mother? With a hiss sound, everyone gasped. People who don't understand the mystery can't help but be stunned after hearing this. Isn't this Gu family too bold? It was because of the kindness of raising the new emperor that he did not put the royal family in his eyes and acted so boldly. This is a big mistake. Even if the new emperor wants to protect people, I'm afraid he can't get over it easily, right? Gu's mother and Gu Beizu were anxious. They never imagined that a screen could cause such a big problem. Feeling extremely panicked, Gu's mother planned to stand up and take the blame entirely on her. Gu Beizu pulled her sleeve and stopped Gu's mother. "Mom, please don't show off at this time. If you say one wrong word, our family will be plunged into a place of no return, and it may even ruin my sister-in-law's recovery. Let's wait and see what happens, and if we are really going to be convicted, we will take action." She kept hinting to herself that her sister-in-law was omnipotent and would be able to resolve this crisis. Even though I thought so, I still felt uneasy. Gu's mother was also afraid of causing trouble to Suwan, so she could only sit there with a pale face and worry. The Empress Dowager was sinking like water, staring at the screen with dim eyes, not knowing whether she was trying to distinguish the difference between peonies and peonies, or brewing anger to punish the Gu family for being disrespectful. "Mother." Jingyun couldn't calm down, especially the look on the Queen Mother's face, which made him feel uneasy inside. He wanted to intercede for the Gu family. "Brother, sister-in-law, they won't." The Empress Dowager raised her hand to stop his words and sat up straight, exuding an aura that made people calm. Before the Empress Dowager could speak, Chi Min on the side said, "Empress Dowager, peonies symbolize wealth and beauty. It would be too monotonous to only have peonies on the screen, so I suggested adding peonies to Wan. I joked at the time that I wonder who with sharp eyes could see this. I thought a lot, but I didn't expect everyone to be so sharp-eyed." The Prince Regent then said, "The literati describe beauty as standing like a peony, sitting like a peony, gentle, luxurious, and graceful. I think these two flowers should have the style of the Empress Dowager, and they complement each other very cleverly. I also agree with the princess's proposal." As soon as these words came out, it was like thunder on the ground. "Chi Min? Princess? The regent and Chi Min are married? How come they don't know?" Although the two people walked together and even lived together in the regent's residence, keeping a low profile and no news was spread, they all agreed that the regent kept Chi Min by his side to take revenge for her abandonment. Even though Chi Min was a member of the royal family of Ziliang Kingdom, she had been married before and gave birth to a daughter with another man. Now not only has she given her a title, but she has also protected her stepdaughter? Suwan couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. She didn't expect that her mother and father's suggestions were similar to hers. She glanced at Gu Huizi, gave him a calm look, and said to the Empress Dowager, "The Empress Dowager, you are the most noble woman in the world, how dare I offend you?" The peony is added to the screen. Not only it was the proposal of the mother and father, and the court lady was thinking about a fable, telling that peonies are not ordinary flowers. It is said that in ancient times, there was a plague in the world, and the flower god stole the elixir of the Queen Mother and spread it into the world, hoping to save the people. As a result, half of these elixirs grew peonies and half grew peonies. The peony on the screen symbolizes your status, nobility, and splendor, and the beauty of the country. This peony symbolizes the peaceful and prosperous Zhou dynasty, when the seas and rivers are clear, and there is no disease or disaster. The author has something to say. Ajian, continue. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 382. Suwon's analysis was not only correct, but also exalted the status of the Queen Mother. Peony and peony are all metaphors for the Empress Dowager. She is the most noble woman, and she also protects the great Zhou dynasty from illness and disaster, and brings peace to the prosperous age. The official did not expect that Suwon was so eloquent, especially that the regent had become Suwon's biggest supporter. Cold sweat broke out on his back and he retreated. But now that people have been offended, if you give up halfway, you will only offend people in your own party. It's really a dilemma. But even if this is the case, he still has to face the difficulties. Maybe if he hits Suwon, he can be rescued by the party and gain a glimmer of hope. If you hadn't been exposed in public, you wouldn't have pointed out Peony, but you are so eloquent here. He saluted the Empress Dowager and said angrily, "The Empress Dowager, MRSQ is sophistry and contempt for the Emperor's authority. If no punishment is imposed, I'm afraid. Is it difficult for the AI family to establish royal prestige?" The Queen Mother exuded the majesty of a superior. "Tell me, how should the AI family punish those who despise the imperial prestige?" He immediately knelt down in excitement and sincerely suggested, "The Queen Mother, for cursing you for such a disrespectful charge, you should kill chickens to scare monkeys, exile to Lingnan to do hard labor, or behead them to intimidate and warn the world that the royal majesty is inviolable." Killing chickens to scare monkeys, the Empress Dowager carefully studied these words with unknown meaning, and then said in a deep voice, "Today is not the day for the AI family to see blood, so they were exiled to Lingnan." The Yuzi Cheng of Dali Temple looked overjoyed. It actually happened. "Come here." The Empress Dowager waved her hand, "Drag Yuzi Cheng down, pull out his tongue, and exile him to Lingnan." The expression on the face of the Yuzi Cheng of Dali Temple changed dramatically, his liver trembled, and he begged for mercy, "Queen Mother, my minister, The guards covered the man's mouth and dragged him down. The family members were so frightened that they collapsed on the ground and were dragged down together. Cries filled the hall. The people in the hall were as silent as a cicada. "Whether it's right or wrong, it's all because of your mouth that you've created a mess here." The Gu family's kindness to the AI family is not to mention sending a peony screen. Even if it means the life of the AI family will never do it. Second words, the Empress Dowager glanced at the crowd with a cold look, and the cold light in her eyes was breathtaking. "The Prime Minister of Yuzi of Dali Temple today is the result of causing trouble. I hope you all will take this as a warning for the prosperity of the great Zhou dynasty. Don't act like a talkative woman. If anyone in the AI family starts to stir up trouble, they will all be dismissed from their posts, their homes will be confiscated, and they will not be allowed to take part in the imperial examination or serve as officials for 3 generations. The hall was silent. The Empress Dowager's eyes fell on Suwon, and her expression softened. "The AI family knows what kind of character you have. The AI family are not people who don't know right from wrong and let these monsters fool you." Suwon was really shocked. She didn't expect that the Queen Mother was devoted to them and never doubted them. "I would like to express my gratitude to the Queen Mother for her trust." Ping Shen, the Empress Dowager, asked Suwon to take a seat, without asking whose hand the screen was made, and left it to Suwon to handle it by herself. This also fulfilled Suwon's excuse for getting out. Gu Huizi sat down with Suwon and glanced at Emily, who was standing behind him. Emily quietly retreated from the hall. The atmosphere in the hall became tense, and the people offering gifts behind became cautious. Everyone looked at Suwon with a kind of fear in their eyes, and they no longer dared to look down on her. Even though she didn't have the Su family to rely on, behind her were the Empress Dowager, the Emperor, and even the Regent. But after the gift presentation, the Regent dropped another bombshell. "I will take this opportunity today to inform you that Suwon is my daughter. Biological. The author has something to say." Woohoo, I could have finished writing at 12:30, but Soft Bayo took a call and called for half an hour. "Let's update a chapter first. Let's go to dinner." See you at 2:30, okay. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Bao. Chapter 383. Everyone was confused. Looking at each other. Biological. What's the meaning? Suwon was also stunned. They all reached a tacit understanding, that is, they tacitly agreed that the matter of identity would be announced when the time was right. Otherwise, there will be great criticism against Chi Min. It was rumored that she was unruly, which was detrimental to her reputation. She looked at the regent and Chi Min who were sitting diagonally across from them. The regent looked at her with a gentle expression, as if to tell her that no matter what happened, he would be there to block her. Chi Min smiled gently and told her not to worry. A warm current surged through Suwon's heart. She knew why they wanted to announce her life experience. It was because of Gu Huizi's current status. There would always be people who would covet his backyard and want to climb this big tree to influence the future of the family. The clouds are rising straight up. Even a more powerful woman would replace her. After all, in the eyes of the world, her natal family was in a state of poverty, and her only support was Gu Huizi. Without the man's favor, she had nothing. Her mother and father didn't want her to be bullied and suffer these grievances, so they were not afraid of these rumors, as long as she lived a stable life. The Empress Dowager was the first to break the silence with a smile. Wanwan is the niece of the Ai family and the emperor's cousin. From now on, it will be difficult. Should the emperor call Wanwan cousin, or should he call Wanwan sister-in-law? Sister-in-law, cousin, you name it. Suwon introduced herself to everyone gracefully. My name is Ji Lingzhao. This was in response to the regent's words. Everyone has complicated thoughts. Suwon is of royal blood, and the Gu family and the royal family are closer. Their wish to use women to seduce Gu Huizi failed. The prince regent announced this news just to give them a beating. They glanced at Suwon, then at the regent, and finally looked at Chi Min, secretly shocked. Chi Min gave birth to a child after marrying Sujihong. Either she tasted the forbidden fruit before getting married, or she violated the rules of women after marriage and the regent. Wang secretly had an affair and made Sujihong a grandson, raising children for others. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but take a sneak look at Chi Mi, and what kind of charm did this woman have? After getting married, she could seduce the regent so much that he would never marry her for the rest of his life. At the end, I still picked up a broken shoe and wore it. Chi Min is calm and composed. After living to this age and experiencing life and death, nothing is more important than the people he loves living happily. The opinions of the world are irrelevant to her. The regent held her hand and whispered in her ear, "Your body has recovered. We will leave Beijing in a few days." Okay. Chi Min nodded with a smile. On the Empress Dowager's birthday, two major events happened, which made many people unable to sit still. As soon as the banquet was over, everyone left in groups. They all gathered together to talk secretly. They gave up all their plans and decided to live their lives as they should. Don't think about taking shortcuts and offending a few Buddhas. Suwon, Gu Huizi, and Gu Jiaojiao left the palace with the regent and Chi Min. Gu's mother and Gu Beizu stayed in the palace and reminisced with Jingyun. In the embroidery building, a piece of the elegance of a prosperous age was completed. Everyone was so exhausted that the proprietress closed the shop for the day. Ruan Yan lived in the backyard of the embroidered building and looked absently in the direction of the palace. She wondered if someone would discover the mystery and convict Suwon. But when she calms down and thinks about it, if Suwon specifies that Jiulu is to blame, and a strict investigation is carried out, will it be found on her head? Thinking of this, Ruan Yan's heart thumped, and she broke out in a cold sweat. She quickly returned to the wing, picked up her baggage, and ran away quickly. With a squeak sound, she opened the door to the backyard and saw a row of guards outside. Her heart skipped a beat and she fell to the ground with weak legs. The author has something to say. Ahem, cough, cough, Ruabeo is slapped in the face, it is half an hour late. If there is time in the evening, Ruabeo will update a little more. If there is no time, it will be tomorrow. Let's see the babies again tomorrow, okay. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 384. The Imperial Guards directly dragged Ruanyan onto the carriage. Help, help. Ruanyan was frightened and opened her mouth to ask for help. The embroiderer was attracted by her voice and saw the battle. Her legs softened and she held her hand on the wall and asked, Master, are you? The screen that Mrs. Joguo presented to the Queen Mother was completed in the embroidery building inside. She used peonies as peonies. This is a great disrespect to the Queen Mother. The words of the Imperial Guards made the embroiderer's liver and gallbladder split, and she knelt on the ground, trembling all over. The Imperial Guards did not blame her and took Ruanyan to the prison. Emily was waiting for Ruanyan in the prison when he saw the Imperial Guards bringing the person and making a gesture to the jailer to put the person into the execution room and tie him to a wide wooden board. Ruanyan looked at the torture instruments in the torture chamber, with dried blood stains on them. She turned pale with fright and wanted to shout for help. Her mouth was blocked and she could only stare in horror. Soon, a man walked in, and Ruanyan saw a sharp thin blade in his hand. He stared at her face, and a chill shot up from the soles of her feet. Help, help. Ruanyan had a bad premonition in her heart and struggled desperately, but she couldn't escape. She watched helplessly as the man approached her step by step, the sharp blade in his hand glowing with an eerie coldness under the candle light. The man took a sip from a bowl of wine and sprayed it on the blade. He hooked his feet up on a bench and sat down. He put the knife on her hairline, drew a line along the entire facial contour, and then slowly cut her entire face. Peel it off. Ruanyan fainted from the pain and woke up again, her whole body dying in severe pain. The moment the dough was peeled off, Ruanyan was barely breathing. Emily walked in from the outside and looked at her bloody face indifferently. You don't deserve to have such a face. Reincarnate with another face. Don't have any delusions in the next life and just be a human being. Ruanyan had no time to react before her neck was cut off. Emily glanced at the blood in his hands, washed his hands in the basin with an expressionless expression, and ordered the jailer to deal with it before returning to his master's life. Regent's Palace. Gu Huizi and Ji Xian went to the study. Mother and daughter Suwan and Qi Min talked about themselves. Zhao I'm sorry, my father, my mother and concubine directly disclosed your life experience without your opinion. I'm afraid there will be rumors later, but my mother and concubine want to tell you that it is impossible for a person to live without anyone gossiping about you. So don't care too much about other people's opinions. As long as you are strong enough and they don't dare to talk nonsense in front of you, you will be happy. Qi Min's body has taken good care of herself, her face has gained color, and she has gained a lot of plumpness. She said with a smile in her eyes, your father and I plan to leave Beijing tomorrow to fulfill our childhood dream. I am not a person who cares about worldly opinions. Compared with the impact on me, you have suffered greater criticism. You are announcing my life experience at this time, just because you don't want anyone to bully me and have no backer. After all, Gu Huai is not what he used to be. Suwan thought about it and looked at Qi Min with soft eyes, saying with reluctance, you and your father must remember to write to me. Every time I go to a place, I write to you and give you some local things. Qi Min touched Suwan's eyebrows and said, my mother-in-law will come back to see you every year. Okay. Suwan hugged Qi Min, her nose was a little sore. Have you seen my grandmother? She always thought that I was the child of a slave. She felt very guilty for what Sujihong did to you, and she was very kind to me. The author has something to say. Ruan Bao continues, okay. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Bao Bao. Chapter 385. Chi Min was silent for a moment, and her voice was full of coldness. The servant didn't succeed. I was attacked accidentally. When I returned to Su Mansion, the people around me went to Chi Mansion to find the doctor. I didn't expect Sujihong to have feelings for me. Hai Nian, after being seriously injured by me, he had malicious intentions and found a slave to ruin my innocence. Fortunately, my people arrived in time with the doctor and took control of the slave. The doctor took my pulse and found out that I have you. I can't leave the Su Mansion for the time being. I can only use the trick to make Sujihong think he succeeded. Only in this way can I be justified. Get off you. If Sujihong hadn't had evil thoughts when she found out she was pregnant, even if she was pretending to be a couple with Sujihong, she would have promised him a huge profit if he allowed him to recognize the child in his belly. If he refuses to agree, in the end he will have to reconcile, but there will be a lot of trouble, and Ji Xian will definitely return to Beijing. Now looking back at the road we have traveled, it would be better not to be foolish and loyal at the beginning, and there would not be so many joys and sorrows. But how could anyone in this world have known earlier? If she had known earlier, without these things, her late son would have been a carefree young lady, and would not have had to suffer so much. It was that accident that affected you in your mother's womb and made you weak when you were born. I almost couldn't keep you. Su Wan's body could not withstand the turbulence, which disrupted Chi Min's plan for a one-year reconciliation and delayed her trip to Ziliang. As a result, the Queen Mother came to Dazhu and took her away by force. Whenever Chi Min thinks of these things, she feels that many things are fate. None of them escaped. Mother concubine. Su Wan wanted to say something, but when she opened her mouth, nothing came out. Chi Min seemed to understand her mood. He patted her on the back and said, "Live your life well. You don't have to worry about your father, the Queen, Mother, and concubines. As for your grandmother, I went to see her a few days ago." Su Wan nodded. At night, Su Wan hugged Gu Jiaojiao and Chi Min to sleep. Ji Xian and Gu Huizi were sitting in the outer room. Ji Xian stared at the inner room for a long time, then looked at Gu Huizi dissatisfied. "Take your wife and children away." Gu Huizi twirled the teacup with his fingers and looked back leisurely. "The family affairs will be decided every night." Ji Xian, useless stuff. Gu Huizi smiled, feeling like he was enjoying it. He readily admits that he is useless. In this way, you only have to bear the displeasure of your father-in-law for one night. If the person is really taken away, the relationship between father-in-law and son-in-law will break into a river. The hypocritical foster father-adopted son relationship in the past will also disappear. Two people drank tea all night, so that the two people were in better spirits than several people who had slept together. Everything that needs to be said has been said. A few people had breakfast in silence. Gu Huizi and Su Wan hugged Gu Jiaojiao and sent Ji Xian and Chi Min to the carriage. "We are just traveling far away. One of you husband and wife is taking care of the affairs at court, and the other is taking care of the affairs at home." Chi Min laughed when she said this. "You are doing better than me and Ji Xian. Forget it, stop gossiping. Let's just say goodbye." Chi Min kissed Gu Jiaojiao, no longer feeling the sadness of last night's farewell, and got into the carriage with ease. Ji Xian gave Gu Huai a special look and left a message: "If anything doesn't go your way, send a letter to your father." "Nothing goes wrong, I'll write to you too." Su Wan urged Ji Xian to get on the carriage. "Hurry up, if we waste more time, it will be dark before you can reach the next town." Ji Xian got on the carriage. Su Wan watched the carriage drive away, feeling reluctant but happy. People around her were saying goodbye to her, but the difference was that they were all rushing towards their own happiness. Instead of feeling sad, she was very happy for them. She lowered her head and looked at Gu Jiaojiao in Gu Huizi's arms. The little guy had his dark eyes open and was chewing on his fingers. "Don't eat your hands." Suwan took her hand away, wiped the saliva with a handkerchief, and got into the carriage with Gu Huizi. "We are going back to the house. I don't know if mother is back from the palace." "It's time to come back." Gu Huizi teased the child in his arms and answered a little casually. Suwan was speechless. After having a child, she felt like she had fallen out of favor, so she simply opened the curtain of the carriage and took a look at the situation on the street. Suddenly, she paused and saw an old lady getting off the carriage. "Grandmother." The author has something to say. And more, Ruan Bao continues. Okay. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Bao. Chapter 386. Suwan was surprised. Wasn't her grandmother in the nunnery? Why did you suddenly return to Beijing? She frowned when she saw the old lady entering a tea house with the support of her maid. I'll go down and take a look. Suwan hurriedly knocked on the wall of the carriage, signaling the coachman to stop the carriage, and told Gu Huizi, "You and Jiao will wait for me in the carriage." The carriage stopped, and Suwan jumped off the carriage and walked into the tea house. The storyteller in the tea house held a pamphlet in his hand and said to the tea guests below, "Today's story is a bit new. It was spread during the Queen Mother's birthday party last night. I am known as the know-it-all in the capital. I cannot lose this reputation. Let me tell you a secret." This sentence aroused everyone's curiosity. Suwan stopped and hid in the dark. He heard that Mr. Shu said, in those days, there were many talented people and beautiful women in the capital. The most famous ones were Qi Min, the daughter of the Prince Regent and General Qi. One was a brave prince and the other was a daughter. The two women, a true love in times of adversity, made a private decision for life. It was a sensation in the capital at that time and became a good story, making everyone in the boudoir envious, and everyone looked forward to the time when they would achieve perfection. The Empress Dowager sacrificed a big stick, beat the couple, and broke up the couple. The Prince Regent and Miss Qi broke up and turned against each other. The Empress Dowager still refused to give up. She was worried that they would restore their old relationship, so she chose a marriage for Miss Qi. To completely cut off their relationship, she selected Ding Yuanho among the princes and nobles, and recruited the current old lady of Ding Yuanho into the palace. The Empress Dowager used coercion and inducement to say, "If your son marries a lady from the Qi family, I will allow your family's title to be hereditary." Mrs. Su was panicking at the time. If she agreed, the home mansion would be glorious for another 100 years. If she didn't agree, it would be difficult for her family to gain a foothold in the capital. What's more, the in-laws of the Qi family were really high up in their family, so they agreed immediately. I went to Qi's house to propose marriage. Do you know what happened during the marriage proposal? The storyteller gave it a try. The tea guests listened to this gossip with great interest. I don't know. Sir, please continue talking. The storyteller took a sip of tea, moistened his throat and said, "This daughter of the Qi family is extraordinary. She doesn't have the pretentiousness of an ordinary young lady. She directly said to Mrs. Su who proposed marriage, Xianlang and I have decided on this life and the next, even if we are not destined to be together in this life. As husband and wife, we will not allow others. I can't help but fall in love with him. I have already eaten the forbidden fruit, and now I am pregnant with his flesh and blood. I am the only daughter in the Qi family, and I will give birth to this child to support the family." Old Madame Su was anxious and comforted Miss Qi with sincere words. Without someone's permission, the Su family would never dare to come to propose marriage. If you are willing to marry into the Su family, the Su family will definitely regard the child in your belly as their own flesh and blood. The Su family was sincere and put their own stature at a very low level. Miss Ji was deeply moved and knew her situation, but she could not let the Su family raise a child in vain, so she proposed a fake marriage. A year later, after breaking off this ridiculous marriage and promising benefits to the Su family, Mrs. Su naturally agreed, and Miss Ji married into the Su family with the red dot. It turned out that this was a good thing that benefited both parties, but who knew that Su Jihong was possessive of Miss Ji and wanted to fake it for real? How could this be possible? Miss Ji naturally refused to agree, but for the sake of the baby in her belly child. Gu, Mrs. Gu. Suwon was listening intently when someone suddenly called her. When she looked back, she saw an unfamiliar face. I am the shopkeeper of the tea house, Mr. Storyteller, this story. Suwon saw his worried look, turned back to look at the storyteller who was spitting, interrupted him, and said with a smile, "The story is very good. He deserves to be the know-it-all in the capital. He can tell such secrets very well. 9 is inseparable, just like I witnessed it with my own eyes." The shopkeeper smiled coquettishly, feeling like he was being mocked, but Suwon spoke sincerely, as if he was speaking from the heart. He couldn't figure out the truth or falsehood of Suwon's words, and he felt even more panicked. In desperation, he told the truth. This is provided by Mrs. Su. The author has something to say. And more, Ruinbeo continues, okay. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 387. Suwon couldn't understand the feeling in her heart. She had already guessed it from the moment she saw Mrs. Su come in and when the storyteller told this story. What surprised her even more was that the details had been changed, almost whitewashing Chi Min. Chi Min did not follow the rules of a woman and have an affair secretly, but the Su family knew that she was pregnant when they married her. Most older people have heard about the relationship between Chi Min and Ji Xian, but they only know that they suddenly broke up, Chi Min married someone else, and the regent never married again. Now that we know the truth, they are a pair of fateful Mandarin ducks who were torn apart by life. Chi Min and Su Jihong faked their marriage because they had no choice but to save their lives. In the beginning, no one was right or wrong in this marriage, because Chi Min was open and honest, and the Su family was willing to admit it. Later, it was the Su family's fault because Su Jihong violated the agreement. Everyone would inevitably sympathize with Ji Xian and Chi Mi, and so what if they were royal relatives or noble families? Aren't you in control? As for whether the story was true or false, they thought that after Chi Min died, Su Jihong married his step-in-law. He and his step-in-law's daughter married into the royal family and married Suwon to a poor boy. It can be proved that Su Jihong knew that Suwon was not his biological daughter. Even if his daughter is no longer favored, a wealthy family will not marry his daughter to a farmer. Sure enough, as Suwon thought, everyone sympathized with Chi Min and the regent, and were very angry at the Queen Mother's actions. Now that time has passed and the family is reunited, they are actually a little happy to see it. Even if there were still people who were skeptical, when they saw Mrs. Su, they saw her expression was shaky, a little embarrassed, and a little ashamed. She got up in a hurry and ran away under everyone's gaze. This guilty look confirmed that Bai Shitong was telling the truth. Otherwise, if he arranged it like this and Mrs. Su scolded him, it would make him unable to eat and walk around. The news quickly spread throughout the capital. Most people were sympathetic and stopped slandering Chi Min and Suwon. A small number of people just watched the fun and gossiped about it after dinner. These things were all expected by Mrs. Su. She had made this plan when she came back from the nunnery this time. This was what the Su family owed Chi Min and Suwon and should repay. You can't let your granddaughter, who has hurt you for so many years, be scolded. After coming out of the tea house, she grabbed the maid's arm tightly, covering her stuffy and aching chest, breathing heavily, and in a trance, she saw Suwon standing next to the carriage. Wan, Mrs. was stunned for a moment, and this time there was a real look of embarrassment on her old face. She knew without even thinking that Suwon had heard what happened in the tea house. "You kid, you're waiting here specially for me. Why don't you go in and call me?" Bye asked the junior to see the joke, and Mrs. couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. "I didn't know you were inside. I saw your carriage and it was standing here waiting for you." Suwon had a bright smile on her face and naturally held Mrs's hand, pretending she didn't know anything about the tea house. "Why didn't you say anything when you returned to the capital? If you hadn't passed by, I wouldn't have known about it." Mrs. didn't see any clues on Suwon's face, so she pretended that she didn't know, and said casually, "Hey, I want to see my great-grandson. Coming to the city is too tiring. Let's go to the tea house to drink some water to moisten our throat. Listen. After hearing about the recent events in the capital, I can't afford to buy some gifts for my great-grandson empty-handed." She looked behind Suwon. "Where is my great-grandson?" Suwon held Mrs's hand and walked towards her carriage. "He Huizi is waiting for me in the carriage. When you come back this time, please stay with me more and take care of my child. You little scoundrel, at my age, you still rely on me to take care of your children. Shouldn't you ask me to enjoy a happy life?" "Who told you to take care of your children well?" Suwon said poignantly. "Besides, with 4 generations living under one roof, you are just a happy little old lady, playing with your grandchildren. Isn't your life a leisurely one?" Mrs. was so coaxed by Suwon that she smiled from ear to ear. "You are so sharp-tongued. That is also the treasure in your heart." Suwon looked at the few missing teeth in old Mrs's mouth and realized that she was really too old and unwilling to ask her to go to the temple to live a life of poverty. "I am now everywhere. I will be very busy growing medicinal materials in the next few years and I won't be able to take care of your great-grandson, so you have to pity the little one because she doesn't have a mother to care for, so please give her more love. The little one is too difficult to take care of. The noise makes me have a headache. I don't like taking care of him." Mrs. said this and got into the carriage with the help of her maid. She saw the pink and tender little one with big black eyes. When the good grandson was a child, his cloudy eyes suddenly brightened up. He quickly sat on the stool and asked Gu Huizi to give the child to her. "Great-grandfather, give your little good grandson a hug. The author has something to say." Big fat chapter, ha ha ha, and more. Ruin Bao continues. Okay. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Bao. Chapter 388. Grandma Gu Huizi put the child in Mrs's arms and said to Gu Jiaoqiao, "This is great-grandmother." As if he understood, the little guy opened his mouth and grinned at old Mrs. Old Mrs. was instantly struck by the red heart, and she hugged the little guy and refused to let go. Wan, if you have something to do, just go about your business. Young people have to start their own careers. I will take care of Xiao Jiao for you." Suwon smiled and fell into Gu Huizi's arms. "Didn't you say you wouldn't take care of me? Do you think the child is annoying?" "Nonsense, Xiao Jiao is so good, my great-grandmother doesn't even have time to like her, so how can she be annoyed?" Old Mrs. turned sideways and said to Xiao Jiao, "Don't listen to your mother, my great-grandmother loves you." Suwon burst out laughing, holding Gu Huizi's arm, looking at the old and young children opposite, feeling that the years were peaceful. When they returned to Gu's house, Gu's mother had already returned. She warmly entertained Mrs. and placed her in a wing in Suwon's yard so that she could be taken care of nearby. Mrs., who was getting old after all, stayed with Gu Jiao all afternoon. After dinner, she was so tired that she washed up and went to bed. Gu's mother went to Gu Huizi and gave him a breather. Yesterday Jingyun was talking to me. The first assistant came to ask for his resignation. Jingyun allowed him to retire and return to his hometown. Gu Huizi was not surprised. It turned out that Su Xiaofu had wanted to resign for a long time, but because of his unstable foundation, he never resigned and returned home. Jingyun said that he would promote you to the position of chief assistant. You are so young, will everyone be convinced by you? Gu's mother was deeply worried. How about we slowly climb up the ladder? Gu Huizi asked, wait until Jingyun is lifted up, then climb up again. Mother Gu choked. Gu Huizi whispered, Jingyun's ideas were discussed by the Empress Dowager and the Regent. The most important thing now is to stabilize Jingyun's throne. When his wings are full, that will be the time for me to retire after my success. Gu's mother felt a little calmer. Sure enough, in the morning of the next day, Gu Huizi was promoted to chief assistant. All the officials had expected it, but when it got to this point, many people were still unconvinced. Gu Hui's position was high and he was even busier with his official duties. No one was seen morning and night. Suwan heard some gossip. At Gu Huizi's age, if he didn't achieve something big, he might not be convincing. But in such a peaceful and prosperous era, it is difficult to make big moves. She thought about the history she had learned in her previous life, and decided to make a living and carry out a reform. With this in mind, Suwan waited for the child to fall asleep and left it to Mrsu and Mother Gu to take care of her. She went to Gu Huizi's study to make a draft, but she found some papers on the desk that she had written on. When he got up and took a look, he was surprised to find that Gu Huizi was also planning to carry out tax reform. Suwan became happy. After reading Gu Huizi's manuscript, she realized that this was still his first manuscript. It was just a preliminary plan with many shortcomings. When he really perfected it, it would probably not be possible in a few years. She wrote down on rice paper how to spread a small amount of food into an acre, and she was entranced by the writing. After she finished writing, she stretched, and then she discovered that an oil lamp had been lit in the study at some point, and a man was standing opposite the desk, holding a hand in his hand. Holding a cup of tea, she drank tea leisurely while staring at her manuscript paper. Why didn't you say anything when you came back? Suwan was in high spirits and waved to Gu Huizi, come here and I'll tell you what I think. Gu Huizi stared at her for a long time with deep eyes, then walked to her side. The author has something to say. Ouch, Ruan Bao, please try to finish it today, there are still more, keep pulling, okay. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Bao. Chapter 389. When Gu Huizi came back, he saw that she was engrossed in writing, but he just didn't want to disturb her. He stood aside and read the tax reform she wrote. He didn't expect that the more he read, the more subtle it became. He didn't know how she could have so many novel ideas in her mind. It seemed that anything could be easily solved as long as she was willing to think about it. Our taxes can only be paid in silver. This method can improve the revenue of the national treasury, but the people are already poor and have very scarce money. The food obtained from farming cannot offset the taxes, which adds to their heavy burden. More importantly, our current situation of land annexation by big landlords is very serious, and it is easy to force the people into desperation. Jingyun has just succeeded to the throne. From now on, he will be a benevolent king, and he must first benefit the people. I don't need to tell you, I'm afraid you know it. The current situation is that taxation is based on head count. Poor families are afraid that as more people are added to the family, the tax will also increase, resulting in a heavy burden on the family, so many people will hide the number of people and will not report the facts. If we abolish the poll tax and instead collect taxes based on land, we will pay as much tax as there is land, less land for those with less land, and more for those with more land. This will greatly increase the revenue of the state treasury compared with the current situation, and at the same time reduce the burden of tax. This reduces the burden on ordinary people, they do not have to hide the population, and the control of household registration can be relaxed. This will increase population mobility, which can promote economic development, which is beneficial to the country and ordinary people, but it is not good for the rich, because they have the most land in their hands, which greatly increases their tax revenue. Gu Huizi did not speak, but picked up the manuscript paper, which listed 7 or 8 items. First, by dividing the plots into acres, the plots of land are combined into one, which reduces the burden on landless and landless farmers. Second, after the implementation of the system of dividing one person into one mu, taxes will no longer be based on people, which means that the state has loosened its personal control over farmers. Farmers' migration and job change no longer need to be restricted by the strict household registration system. They can become hired labor. After reading it, he fell into deep thought and felt that this was very feasible, so he went over the details with Suwan. After everything was settled, it was already late at night. "Why did you think of this?" Gu Huizi poured her a glass of water and looked at her gently. "If it is officially implemented, I'm afraid I will have to be away from the capital often." Suwan held the water cup and took a few sips of water, then said nonchalantly, "It's okay, I need to take care of the medicinal fields and medicinal mountains in various places. We are each busy with our own things, but I can follow your footsteps." Career after the work was completed, we also used public funds to travel around the whole Zhou dynasty. Gu Huizi looked at the beauty under the dim light and imagined the future. Her bright eyes seemed to be filled with stars, shining brightly, and her face was filled with a smile, as if she was full of yearning for it. His heart was so excited that he stretched out his arms to hold her on his lap and kissed her moist red lips. Gu Huizi proposed this matter early in the morning, but was opposed by most people. In the end, he took a tough approach and pushed against all opinions and implemented the reform. This matter is of great importance, because it infringes on the interests of everyone, and officials are the first to bear the brunt. Gu Huizi has great obstacles and a long way to go. However, after more than a month of preparation, Gu Huizi decided to pilot it in Jiangjiacheng and personally took the people away from Beijing. If this happens, it will not only establish his status, but also be counted among Jingyun's political achievements. No matter how difficult it is inevitable. Suwan had not yet been weaned, so she did not leave with Gu Huizi and took care of Gu Jiaojiao at home. When the child was 8 months old, Gu Huizi had only returned to the capital once. When Suwan was thinking about taking the child to see Gu Huizi, she received a letter from Cao Wanking. "I don't know why the medicinal materials were planted. Within half a month, they all died." She looked at the dead medicinal materials sent without thinking about it. She advocated weaning the child off the breast and handing it over to Gu's mother and Mrs. Su, before leaving Beijing for on-the-spot investigation. Time flies, but in the blink of an eye, 5 years flew by in their busy work. The method of sharing one's land into one's own land was a great success. Not only was it fully implemented in the Zhou Kingdom, Qimin and Jixian also used the same method to implement it in the Western Liang Kingdom. Gu Huizi and Jingyun have high reputations among the people and are highly praised by the people. The revenue of the treasury is increasing by millions of taels of silver every year. No one in the court dared to speak out against it. Suwan's medicinal fields and mountains are fully planted, and different medicinal materials are grown in different environments and climates. Her workshops are basically built all over the country. Charity has also flourished, and the women hall established is also very mature and has treated many poor people. Not only that, Suwan built an academy to provide free education for children from poor families to cultivate talents, and the Great Zhou Kingdom developed into its heyday. Suwon and Gu Huizi were finally able to rest and live at a normal pace. Gu's mother is old and Gu Jiaojiao is 5 years old. Even if Suwon has to travel far away, she can still take her with her. In particular, Gu Jiaojiao was very interested in medical skills, and she especially liked Suwon to learn medical skills, so she wanted to return to her hometown to retire. Suwon had already made preparations and built a courtyard house in Xinghua village. Gu's mother lived on the left and Gu Qingsong lived on the right. The two could take care of each other. The Mid-Autumn Festival is only half a month away, and Gu's mother plans to leave for her hometown tomorrow. On this day, Gu Jingyun and Gu Beizu came back from the palace. The author has something to say. Babies, let's work together. These information are from Zhihu. Okay, there will be updates. Soft Bayo will continue, okay. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 390. Gu Beizu is about to turn 15 years old. She has a pair of shining eyes, which seem to contain a clear spring, and her pink face is as rosy as the morning glow reflecting the snow. She is wearing a silver-red dress and stands gracefully under the lights, making her look charming and beautiful. Ji Shuo stood beside her. He was tall and slender. He had clear angular lines and a pair of narrow, dark eyes. There was a sharp light under the calm eyes. The black brocade robe made him imposing. After 5 years in the Forbidden Palace, his youthfulness and vitality have faded away, and he has become a man of power who cannot distinguish between joy and anger, and is full of majesty and edge. Gu Beizu looked back at him and realized that the two of them were about the same height. In the past few years, he had grown very tall, and now she could only reach his shoulders. Goen Jishuo lowered his eyes, looked at her raised face, and raised his chin slightly. Gu Beizu pursed her lips, lowered her head and entered the house. Jishuo followed her slowly. The two people appeared in the main room together. Gu's mother saw the two people and came over in surprise. Beizu, Jingyun, it's so late, what are you doing here? I'm just going back to my hometown, and I will come back in the future. I haven't seen you for a long time, so I came here to see you off. The coldness in Jishuo's eyes subsided, and there was a softer meaning in his eyes. Gu Beizu said to Gu's mother, Mom, I'm going to find my sister-in-law. Your sister-in-law is in the kitchen. Gu Beizu nodded and went to the kitchen with ease. Through the small square window, she saw Suwon busy in front of the stove. A faint smile appeared on her face involuntarily, and she walked in briskly. Sister-in-law, I'm back. Ha ha ha, I told mother that you would come back, and I specially made your favorite food. Suwon took the time to turn around and pointed to the pastries on the table. Yam cake, your favorite food. Gu Beizu took a piece of pastry and stuffed it into his mouth and took a bite. He rolled his eyes and showed a sweet smile. You are the happiest when you eat food cooked by your sister-in-law every day. Suwon smiled and said, Come out of the palace when you want to eat, and I will cook it for you. Gu Beizu didn't say anything, chewing slowly and finishing a piece of pastry. Suwon realized something was wrong, put the lid on the pot to simmer the food in the pot, walked up to her, looked at her worried look, and couldn't help but ask, What's wrong? Are you unhappy? Sister-in-law, I'm going back to Xinghua village with my mother. Gu Beizu wiped the cake crumbs on her fingers with a handkerchief and lowered her slender eyelashes. I used to be a playmate for my second brother, but now I'm about to have haircuts. It's long overdue coming out of the palace. It's time for you to get married. It's best to stay in the capital. Suwon was not a person with low emotional intelligence. In fact, she had discovered something was wrong with Gu Beizu as early as a year ago. She suddenly moved out of the palace and returned home, saying that she had grown up and stayed in the palace to make people gossip. Within half a month, she was taken back to the palace by Jing Yun. She happened to be in the house at that time. Gu Beizu stayed at home and only took Jiao Jiao out to go shopping. Otherwise, he would read books and practice calligraphy in the yard to become a female celebrity, hiding his worries. Suwan took the initiative to ask about it, but Gu Beizu just smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, I don't have any playmates in the palace. I'm used to being quiet, but I don't like the excitement." Now that he was directly proposing to leave Beijing, Suwan's idea became clearer. Gu Beizu seemed to realize what Suwan was going to say and interrupted her, "Sister-in-law, even if I say we are going to marry each other, I am looking for someone from Zitown. The family is well off and the population is simple, so that I can take care of my parents nearby.